Good evening. I am Dr. Gregory A. Salters, and we're here to talk to you all about getting to that next level. We often talk about what does it take to get to the next level. We talk about things that are going on in our various careers. We talk about what we're trying to do to get from where we are to where we want to be. If you've been following me, you can follow me here on Facebook. You can follow me over on YouTube. I'm also over on LinkedIn. So join me as we talk about things to get us from where we are to where we want to be. If it has to deal with success and leadership, let's talk about it, particularly if it's issues surrounding law enforcement, education, and anything to help motivate and get individuals to that next level. When we're talking about things, I said, many times I've been talking to individuals who've been really frustrated in the current job market about, gee, how do I go from this job to another job? How do I find a job? I've been outsourced. I've been furloughed. What is it that I need to do? One of the things that we need to do while we're in our current jobs is make sure that our performance evaluations are as accurate as they possibly can be. I've had the opportunity to work with some individuals dealing with their performance evaluations, and many times I've found out that there are many pertinent things that are left out of evaluations. How many of y'all work with organizations to where people say, oh, the evaluations don't mean that much. No one's really looking at the evaluations. How many of y'all perhaps have had an evaluation by ambush to where you're over there, supervisor comes to you and says, this is your eval, sign right here. You haven't really had much input on it. You hadn't really thought about it. Like, wow, what happened? So you're like, what am I doing in this particular process? What is it that the evaluation is supposed to do? And whose responsibility is it to complete my evaluation? Many times individuals are so ingrained that it's their boss's job to do their evaluation. If you're one of those that believe it's your boss's job to do your evaluation, I am glad you're listening to us. I'm glad you are joining us this evening. I'm glad you're listening to the playback. And if you want to have further conversations, let's do that. How many times have you looked at your evaluation and you notice that there are many things that you did during the evaluation period that are outstanding that didn't show up in your evaluation? How many of you all have gotten emails or correspondence from people or organizations that you did an outstanding job for and you have them, but they aren't in your evaluation? Do you have them? Have you shared them with your supervisor? Have you shared them with your HR department so they could be included in your personnel file? Or have you thought that nobody will ever think about them? How many times have you looked at your evaluation and it seems like all they wrote down was the negative things that occurred during the year in your evaluation? Another thing that you might want to watch out for is that during your evaluation has the dates of coverage that it is going to be covering. Let's suppose it's January 1st to December 31st. Your evaluation is due on December 31st, but let's suppose that your supervisor submits the evaluation a little bit late. And let's suppose they submitted January 10th and they include something that you did that was negative on January the 4th. Should that have been included in your evaluation? It goes from January 1st to December 31st? No, but if you aren't watching it or you don't think that it really matters, you're going to have it there and you aren't going to mention it to anybody. Sometimes your supervisor might even be unaware of those particular dates between beginnings and ends. How's it going, Wayne? Glad you're able to join us again tonight over there with the Broward County Institute of Public Safety. One of the things I want to do is I want to start back working with individuals and talk to them and show them the importance of their evaluation. When you put in for a lateral transfer at your particular employer, don't they look at your evaluations or talk to others to find out who would be the best fit for this job? When you go for promotions, what is it that they look at? They look at your evaluations. If you leave one employer and go to another employer, your next employer may do a background check, particularly in law enforcement, where they're going to do a background check, go back and check your personnel file and things that you have in there. That's there. And those individuals that are watching it in the private sector, you notice that a lot of times your performance evaluation can deal with your salary history. So therefore, when you're going for another job, how good your evaluation is or how well it documents your past could be the difference between a few $1,000s in your annual salary or any other benefits that may be added based on information that is or is not in your evaluation. Have you considered that? Also, when you're going through the year and you're going through your evaluation process, do you realize how difficult it is from a supervisory standpoint to write your evaluation? That is very, very difficult a lot of times. And sometimes it can be a headache and an inconvenience for supervisors. Over the years that I've instructed individuals on how to do evaluations, I have yet to find any supervisors that have had a problem when people that are on their team come to them maybe a month or two before the evaluation is due and say, hey, supervisor, hey, sarge, hey, lieutenant, hey, captain, hey, manager, I would like to sit down with you to go over things in my evaluation prior to it being due so that we can make sure it's as accurate and objective as possible. As a personal practice, what I do is I have individuals that are on my team, and when it comes time for their evaluation, I make a copy of the evaluation. I provide it to the individual. I say, here's your evaluation. Evaluate yourself, because normally in the evaluation, you have the numericals. So they'll have the numericals to evaluate themselves. I'd ask for narratives and any supporting documentation. And it's very interesting. I have worked with some individuals who rated themselves much lower than I had rated them. I worked with some individuals who rated themselves much higher than I had rated them. And then when we're able to sit down there, many times we can come up with something in between to where we at least know what the numbers are. And I reserve the narrative for me to write when I'm getting finished with their evaluation. So therefore, what that does, it accomplishes two things. As a supervisor, they assisted me with making sure that their evaluation was accurate and objective. It lets them know that they had some voice, and I did listen to things that they had. And many times they had information that I was unaware of. How many times have you done things and it seems like every time you messed up, somebody told your supervisor about it, or somehow your supervisor found out about it. But when you did things that were outstanding, they never were around and never knew that you did them. So what can we do to make sure those things are there? And then when we're getting to the even more advanced level, let's start looking at it. What things is it that your organization really values? What is it that's in your job description that you should be doing? You may even begin to look at it and say, what's in it in the promotional process? What's in it at the next level that they would expect me to do at the next level? Am I doing things at this level which they are expecting me to do at the next level? Perhaps you can begin writing those things into your evaluation. So therefore, when you're going for a promotion, they will see, wow, this individual is ready for promotion. They have been doing the work in this position. They have had exposure in this position. And now they have taken the requisite test and have prepared themselves and put themselves in position. That could be the deciding factor as to who gets a promotion and who does not. Also, when you're going for lateral transfers, if you have been spending time with those units, taking classes regarding subject matter and this type of stuff, and it's included in your evaluation, that could be the deciding factor for who gets into a specialty unit and who does not. Have you really taken your evaluations as seriously as you should? When you're looking at your evaluation, what I would suggest you do is, because so many times we are just doing our work, particularly law enforcement and public servants, we're just doing our work, not doing it for any other recognition. It's not like we're getting commission on the things that we're doing. So we're out there serving the public. For instance, I was talking with a group over at Miramar Fire Department, Miramar Police Department, and we're talking, how do you document the community service that you do at a community engagement? For instance, if we go to a community event and we say, how do we measure that event? So if I say, yes, we went to a community event. So do you mark that as one event as your engagement? Or do you say we went and you mark down or you indicate how many individuals went? For instance, if you went to a high school and you talked to them about how to interact with law enforcement, and you went with 3 individuals, would you indicate that as a one-time community engagement event? Or would you say that's a one-time community engagement event? You had 3 individuals, you all were over there for 2 hours, and you interacted with 100 students. So now do you begin to see how it is one event, but you begin to put out there what your actual impact was? Because it could have been one individual going over there for 1 hour and also talking to one student. So that would still be one event. But how are you really measuring the impact that you, your team, and or your organization is having with the team, with the community? That is basically along the lines of how nonprofits go out and, according to the IRS, how do you document the economic impact of your volunteerism? How are you doing that? So what that does from a managerial standpoint, that allows us to see what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. So now imagine in your evaluation, if you say you coordinate an event at a school to read to the kids. Okay, if I look at that, okay, great event. Which is more accurate? You um, coordinated an event at a school to read with the kids. You had 10 officers. You all went out there to 10 different classrooms, and each classroom had approximately 30 kids in it, and you were there for an hour. So 30 kids times 10 officers, that's 300 people that you contacted within an hour. Do you see how that shows a little bit more? So when I look at your evaluation versus somebody else's that just says they did one event, it gives me a lot better picture of what it is that you did. And it's interesting because sometimes in law enforcement say, we don't want stats for stats' sake. That, in my mind, is not a statistic for statistics' sake. That is statistics documenting what your actual efforts were. Because now it shows that you're able to collaborate with other individuals throughout the agency. It shows that you are out there in the community building bridges. It shows that you're also helping the kids and building relationships. These are some things that we began to do to show how do we deal with it and how does it show up in your evaluation. Carlton Harrison, great to see you out here joining us as well. He's up there at the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. And just like we were talking about our kids doing things, they often have events up there at the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport to expose kids to the aeronautics field. I've had the pleasure of going up there to a few of the events. I know they've also been doing some stuff with Florida Memorial University. So if you all are interested in aeronautics and getting out there learning more, you also shoot Carlton Harrison an email up at Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. So make sure we connect with these individuals. This is what we're talking about. These are the connections that we have. This is the exposure that we need to have. And then up there with Mr. Harrison, what they're looking at, if you look at what he and Rufus James are doing up there at the airport, they're documenting the efforts that they're making and how that is really being a strong business enterprise for the city of Fort Lauderdale. You're documenting your business partners, documenting your events that you're having, documenting what's going on up there, because that is in your evaluation and it properly documents the impact that you're having as a permanent written document for what you did during that particular period. You can also use that when I look at evaluations and how they are situated. You have the one part where you're putting numbers in there, but then in the narrative part, you have the opening part about how the people are, where they've been there. And one of the areas that I think that is overlooked on many cases is the ending part, which talks about the goals, or you begin to set in place what it is our next steps. And I like to use that to kind of set my team up for success. So if I'm there and Mr. Boyer states that he wants to be president of Broward College, we began to put things in place saying, okay, these are something that he wants to do. These are some things that we're going to put in place. So he has a roadmap and some steps that he should take during the next evening. Melissa Jane, how are you doing? Glad you could join me tonight. I look forward to being on the Melissa Jane show tomorrow night, where we're going to be talking about money and budgeting. Looking forward to it. I greatly appreciate the invite. I see Tom Raines Lodge, number 484, the Masonic Lodge there. Glad you all are able to join us this evening, because we like to make sure our community is squared away. So when we're looking at things in that evaluation process, we put together these things and you have that evaluation, you get those numbers together. Make sure you begin to look at and make sure you're accurate when you're writing up in that narrative the things that you're doing that are in your job. When is the last time any of you all read your job descriptions? Because sometimes we haven't read our job descriptions and know what it is during the year that we should be highlighting. Do you know the job description of the next position that you're going to? Because you need to be knowing what it is you were aspiring to and how do you document those things to go forward. So we're doing those particular things. We're trying to get there because that's one of the things I look at. Many times when you leave the job of doing your evaluation up to someone else, you are not going to have as a complete and objective evaluation as you could. Right now, if you have some things in your email, if you have some letters that you have received from the public or from organizations that are showing how outstanding you are, if you don't know what your organization's policies and procedures are about having things in your personnel file, well, just go over there and ask to have it put in your personnel file. You need to forward it up your chain of command so that your supervisors know that you received these particular accolades and these commendations or letters from the public. How else can we properly document them to move things forward? And I don't know about you all, if you're doing a lot of things, and this has happened sometimes, and I've talked to individuals that have worked with me, they could be doing an awful lot out there in the community. The community could be saying thank you. You need to educate the community sometimes where if they really appreciate the work that you have been doing, they need to send an email to the chief and let the chief know what's going on. Send an email to your city manager, whoever the leaders of your organization are, have them send that email over there thanking that. Because a lot of times that email can go an awful long way to show how we're building our connections in the community, how we're working with the community, what bridges are we building. Then it's showing what we're doing. Therefore, it can come from the top down and end up in your personnel file. This is what we talk about community engagement. If you do not work for a law enforcement agency, when is the last time that you wrote something to the law enforcement agency heads to let them know what the officers are doing that you like? Many times we say that the agencies are not engaged with us. We have to also engage the agency. Let the agency know what it is that you like. Let them know when officers are doing bad and when they're doing good. Because when they're doing good, those are the ones we need to reward. And oftentimes it's like when you're dealing with anything, we want to accentuate the positive. When you accentuate the positive, that's what you're going to get. That is measured is done. If we don't measure it, many times that will not occur. Do we have any questions? If you have any questions, please just throw them over there in the chat. I'll try to get to them. Just ask me, because when we look at the evaluations, I've looked at some of them, and I've had some organizations say that we're in the process of revamping our evaluation process. Well, a lot of times when you look at it, and those that are in law enforcement and some other fields may have the same issue, our evaluations are largely cookie cutter for the entire organization or the entire city or whatever your jurisdiction is. But sometimes we have to think outside of the box and say, what do we have to do to make sure we're capturing the things that are important to us? If it's not that important on the number of arrests that we have, and it is more important with what the crime is in your respective areas. How you doing, Mr. Claudel? Glad you're able to join us. I know he's up in Palm Beach in corrections, so glad you're able to join us. But when we're doing these things, do we have things in the evaluation process that shows our team what it is we want to have done? Sometimes we can be measuring things that isn't what we're actually wanting to get done. If we're wanting our team to build bridges and build connections in the community, where is that shown in the evaluation? If we're wanting to be more engaged with the youth, because our youth are the ones that are out there that need us and very impressionable and can help us get things done, how is that accounted for, and how is it rewarded or acknowledged in your evaluation process or within the culture of your organization or the culture within your team? Once you begin to have that as a culture, and once you begin to have those things going, then individuals begin to move forward and will do those things, what we are evaluating. The other thing that I look at with evaluations is there are numerous types of evaluations. Most of the times organizations are looking at what it is just a regular evaluation. But sometimes you may have heard of a 360 evaluation. Glad you could join us, Melina Sanchez. And if you have questions, please just let me know. Watch how this evaluation goes. You have a normal, which is basically a one-on-one evaluation based on the work that you've done over the last 12 months. And what I suggest you do is get with your supervisor prior to it being done so we can make sure your evaluation is as objective as it should be. Another form of evaluation is the 360 evaluation. That one, let's suppose I'm evaluating a first line supervisor or a sergeant. A 360 evaluation would be me getting individuals that sergeant reports to evaluate the sergeant, get other sergeants to evaluate the sergeant, and the individuals that are in the sergeant's team or chain of command that report to him or her to do an evaluation. And then I have a full 360-degree evaluation of that sergeant. Because with human nature, the sergeant or the first line supervisor may treat their peers one way, treat their superiors another way, and treat the individuals that report to them another way, totally separate. So sometimes you need to get a full 360-degree evaluation of an individual to move forward. And sometimes if your organization isn't doing a formal 360-degree evaluation, you may wish to conduct a 360-degree evaluation for yourself. You may wish to talk to your peers. You may wish to talk to those individuals that you report to, and you may wish to talk to the individuals that you report to and get feedback from them about you, your work product, and if there's any things that you should do to improve. That's taking the initiative, because no one woke up successful. Success is an uphill battle. So what are you doing to make sure that you're getting a true picture of how others see you? Because sometimes we don't see ourselves completely clearly. We need to go out and we need to also get things together. Okay, Melissa, you say for the solo business owners, we're not evaluated. However, I always survey clients to receive feedback. I agree. You do not have a formal evaluation process. And it's a good idea that you're doing a survey of your clients to receive that feedback. But also you can be looking at it based on some analysis. So as a solo business owner, you could be reviewing. I know you do a lot of tech things. I know you did one thing on how do you build your email list for businesses and this type of stuff. And you have a lot of classes going on with social media. When you begin to analyze your clients, are your clients largely new clients? Or are you having repeat clients? If you're having repeat clients and the larger percentage of your clients that are repeating, that lets you know that you're doing something good. If you keep having business and it's all new sales, you need to wonder why you are not having repeat customers. So in effect, that is an evaluation of your business. And as a sole business owner, and I do a lot of things, also speaking, coaching, teaching, and doing the consulting, if some people call you back over and over and over and refer you to other people, that's what makes the difference. And many of you all may have heard the phrase, it's not what you know. In terms of Melissa, you know the IT world, you know the social media, you have great music on your shows, you know all of that. So it's not what you know, it is who you know. And I say, wow, it's not really what you know or who you know, it's who knows you and why. Because those are the individuals that be referring new customers to you, coming back to you, sharing your information throughout social media, making sure others know you. That is what you need to begin looking at, because the same thing within your organization. It's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you and why. And a lot of times it's who knows you and why. And when people begin to look at your evaluation, it should reflect your totality of what it is that you're doing during that particular 12-month or 6-month or whatever the evaluation period is. And I've seen that evaluation help a lot of people. And I've seen somewhere it has created some hurdles where they've had things in there that I've had people say, that's not true. That's not even there. Or they've had things happen, say that didn't even happen during that particular time period. It happened during another time period. Well, if you didn't take the responsibility to look at your evaluation to make sure everything that is documented in there occurred within that particular window, then that is also your fault. We need to look at that. Carlton Harrison says, okay, this is one that he says, how do you promote employee performance when it's not necessarily tied to compensation? One, what I tell people to do when you're dealing with employee performance, when it's not tied to compensation, I believe that almost everything is tied to some compensation, but many of us believe that the only compensation is monetary or something in our benefits package. So sometimes what I do is I have to find out what is the person's why. And you all have heard me talk about, it's the Michael Jr. that has Know Your What from Your Why. You might want to watch that on YouTube. I've shown that on some of my classes and some of the things that I've done. But if I know what your why is, Carlton, if I know that your why is your family and making sure that your family has the best life possible, so on and so forth, I can begin to talk to you and state that, wow, Carlton, if you were to able to do this, this would positively impact your family. You might be able to take your family on this particular vacation, or you might be able to inspire these, whatever your why is. I know that you're interested in particularly helping minorities get over there into aeronautics and be exposed to the field. So when I knew that Florida Memorial had an aeronautics program, I said, wow, you might want to connect with them. If you notice, when we had that conversation, it had nothing to do with your compensation, but it was all dealing with your why. And I know you've had individuals that have been on your team that were getting close to retirement. Sometimes you wonder how they deal with things, but you'd be like, okay, this really doesn't come with a formal evaluation, but sometimes you can just say, wow, I really do appreciate everything that you've been doing here and moving forward. So therefore, that can get that person to really feel good and give their best until time for them to retire. Because there have been studies that have been done that show that if you treat people well, they will really work for you. They say because you can work 20% more or 20% less and not really impact your evaluation. So if you have a individual that is satisfactory, but you treat them tremendously well, they might be say, okay, Carlton, you got a big project. I know that you got to get it done. I'm going to stay here and work for you. Otherwise, if you don't treat them well, they'll be like, okay, Carlton, according to our union contract, anything over 15 minutes, we're supposed to be getting overtime. Do you want to sign my overtime card now or later? So a lot of times, to answer your question specifically, how do you promote employee performance when it's not necessarily tied to compensation? I will challenge you to connect better with the employees. I will challenge us to find out what is it that really motivates our team. When you find out what motivates your team and you show them by whatever it is that they're doing, it's going to help them get to whatever their motivation is. I've had individuals that have kids that are on competitive ice skating and hockey teams. I'd be like, okay, if we can put this together, I know your kid has this going on. This might allow you to buy your kid this. This may allow you to spend more time with your kid in this. This may allow you to get your kid exposed to this. And those kind of things. We have to think outside of the box with what we're dealing with individuals. So it was a long-winded answer. I hope there were one or two nuggets in there that can help you, because sometimes some individuals are not going to do. And sometimes we have to deal with individuals that may need to find other employment, other opportunities. And sometimes we might need to find out if we have somebody on our team that is just taking a dive and not themselves, we might need to sit down and have a conversation with them to find out what has changed in their life. Sometimes things change. Sometimes it might even be hours. Sometimes they may need to change hours. They may need to change shifts if you have that availability. But when you talk to them a lot of times and connect with them, you can get other clues as to what you can do. And sometimes you can just simply ask them, what would it take to get you to increase your performance? And sometimes somebody might say, you know something, nobody ever really asked me that. But this is what I'm looking for. And you'd be like, oh, that's all you need? Okay, fine, we can do that. And I've had some that have been very simple, where it was very, very small things. I've had some that had family issues with their kids and what time the school started, and we needed to perhaps change their work schedule so they could come in maybe 30 minutes later, because that allowed them to drop off their kids in time and then get to work. But if I didn't talk to them and didn't connect with them, I did not have that information to really help move the organization forward. And a lot of times there are things out there. If we think outside of the box, we connect with individuals, and you're having these evaluations, I think you'll be utterly amazed at what will happen. One, if you work with your supervisor so that they can have a complete and objective evaluation of you. And also, if you are a supervisor, if you engage individuals on your team and tell them, I would like to have a complete and objective evaluation of you. Can you sit down and just tell me what it is you've been doing and provide me with some information about that? One of the things that has happened to me is I've done that, and a couple of times individuals, you've received evaluations, they know the format. I have literally had individuals write up their own evaluation. I looked at it and had to basically just do an edit for spelling and this type of stuff. And like, wow, I agree with everything that you state here. I couldn't have stated it better. I put it on my letterhead. I sign it, attach it to the evaluation, and it is gone. What did I do there with that employee? They see that I'm fair. There's nothing that was written down there that was inaccurate. And all I want to do is make sure that the evaluation is fair and objectionable. So any other questions, just put them down there so I could answer those. I'm enjoying having this conversation. And I go back because that was yours, Melissa. This is what you'd asked before about the solo business owners, because you are always being evaluated. It is almost a constant thing about evaluation as a business owner. And then you can also, there are ways of telling that evaluation, because also, doesn't your bottom line also deal with your evaluation? And then a lot of times, Melissa, what you need to do is look at it. What is the vision and mission statement of your business? It's kind of like if you're looking at it to make money, then you're going to be looking at it to see what's happening with your bottom line. Some individuals are out there as, I'm not really looking at the money. I want to have, for instance, this is an interesting one for you also, Melissa, dealing with the social media world. When you're looking at evaluating you as social media. So now when you're out there and you're evaluating your work, are you wanting to just get posts and likes, or are you looking for engagement? So therefore, you might put out there, if you look at some people's followings on Instagram, you could look at some people, they may have 5 pictures, but they have 37,000 followers. Then you got some other people that got 37,000 posts and have 2 followers. So is your goal to have a lot of posts? Is your goal to have a lot of likes? Or if your goal is to have a lot of engagement? So therefore, when you're doing your evaluation, that's why I said for the employee, they need to look at their job description to see what it is they should be doing. But now as a business owner, you need to be looking at what is your vision and mission statement of the business, and what is the goal of what you're doing, to be evaluating to make sure that your actions are getting you towards your goals. And I'm sure you understand the difference between the engagement and the likes. Everybody just clicking through and liking. That's not really what you're wanting. We're trying to get engagement. We're trying to get followership. We're trying to get individuals to be engaged. Exactly. Engagement is the key. But now, how do you measure engagement? And that's the thing that's kind of interesting when you look at it. I'm sure you'll have a class on this, and I'm sure if you all want to know about all these social media things, go over there and look at Melissa Jane. And I'm sure she probably has something, particularly with Instagram, because if you click on it and it goes over there to view your insights, it's going to talk about basically your engagement and how many clicks and all of this stuff. So that's how many people clicked on it, then how many people actually said something when they clicked on it and commented. So you have to see what is your goal and how are you dealing with. So that's another form of evaluation for you over on the social media side. And that's one of the things that the individuals are here. If you are in law enforcement, when I was talking with my public information officers, there's a distinct difference between a public information officer and a social media officer, because it's 2 different things. Public information is all about getting out accurate information and getting it out to the public, where social media is more involved with the engagement. When we put out a news article, we really aren't concerned about how much engagement it gets. But when we put out a social media post, we're looking at how much engagement that post gets. How many likes do we get? How many people do we get commenting? What kind of conversation do we have? That is what we're looking at. That's how we're doing that. And I'm dealing that with you, Melissa, because your business is dealing with the social media, at least one aspect of the many things that you do. The other one that we have, okay, so Claudel, you love the idea of the 360-degree evaluation. You love it, and it's kind of interesting because that's one way that we do it. And one of the other ones that we deal with is another evaluation that I think many of you will find very interesting. It is basically an evaluation within an organization where you basically prioritize your individuals. It's almost like sports, dealing with your first, second, and third string. So therefore, if you are a first line supervisor and you have individuals on your team, do you know who it is? Have you really listed them 1 through 5 or 1 through 10, whatever your span of control is? I had some individuals say that, oh, that doesn't happen. When I was in charge of one of our investigations bureau, I asked the sergeants, I said, okay, I need you all to submit a list basically about how your people are listed in your organization and on your team. Well, no, they're all good. They're all good. And as much as we say everybody is all good, consciously, we have a pecking order and we know who it is that we don't want to lose from our team. You all think about that. So now if you're on a team, what are you doing to make sure you are as high on your supervisor's list as possible? Because sometimes you'd be like, oh, wow, I don't really know where I situated on my supervisor's list. What have you done to make sure that your supervisor does not want to lose you on their team? And that's what we talk about, creating value. Harry Joe, how you doing, sir? Glad you could join us. Now, if y'all are needing any Greek paraphernalia, anything else out there, Harry Joe is the one to go to. He'll do almost anything you need. He's one of those kind of brothers that has connections with everything. And that's one thing we talk about evaluation. It's kind of funny. He did some face masks, and he's an alpha, and he had the one that was '06, and they'd gone all over the place, and we'd seen some in some very interesting places, and you see them like, hey, that's my design. So that is a form of feedback, and that is a form of evaluation. Where you see things going, where do you see your products, where do you see people wearing them? That's also evaluation. So as we were stating, with those evaluations, whose job is it to do your evaluation? So from an individual, it is your job to work with your supervisor to make sure that your evaluation is as accurate as possible. For my solo business owners, it is also your job, as Melissa did say, she'd reach out there and do surveys. That is definitely it. But it's also your job. You could be having matrix and statistics out there within your social media accounts to where you haven't looked at them to see what is happening and where's your activity. Just like when I do these videos, I go back, I look at them, I see who are the views, see who are the shares, where are they coming from, different time spans, how long is the talk, is it one on motivation, is it one on law enforcement, what is it about, what is it that my audience is really looking for? Because sometimes you can find out on different platforms, they respond differently to various messages. So that is a form of evaluation. So no matter what it is that we're doing, when it's on your job, you need to be taking responsibility for your evaluation along with your supervisor. If you're a sole business person, you need to be taking responsibility for the evaluation of your business by any means necessary. Talking to people, looking at your matrix, reviewing your statistics, talking to people, reviewing your repeat customers. Then you look at all things that are out there. What else is it that we could possibly do to do our evaluations? Because with the evaluations, we're looking at it. Is it a 360 evaluation? Because same thing with businesses, you got to look at it for the 360. But then also, what about the people that are on your team? How do you have them evaluated? Are you making sure you keep people there? If you're on somebody else's team, what are you doing to make sure that you're up there ranked very high when they evaluate you, that you're up there and not one of the ones when budget cuts come around that they're eager to get rid of you at a budget cut? You do not want to be subject to budget cut. You want to show that you're valuable and want to be on that team. Have another one here. Harry Joe, I always made sure I forwarded emails of that nature to my supervisors. If they didn't see it, the compliment didn't happen. I always ensured my paper trail was seen. And now notice you're taking an active role in what it is that's going on. And the thing that you're looking at is the step after that is once they see it, you need to make sure that it is placed in your personnel file, because what happens also, if they see it and it's not mentioned in your evaluation and not in your personnel file, then that will be gone. If I'm looking for an attorney extraordinaire that deals with certain areas and I look at your personnel file, it needs to be there in your permanent records. While emails are permanent, the email is not permanent in your evaluation or in your personnel file. So you need to go that extra effort and make sure that in your personnel file is there as a permanent written document. Because if it was negative, they wouldn't just send you an email, Harry Joe, to make sure you saw it. They would put that in your personnel file so that it would be there in a permanent record. Any other questions or comments that we may have? I really enjoy you all tuning in. I really enjoy this. If you all have subject matter that you would like for me to cover, whether it's dealing law enforcement, whether it's dealing with HR issues, whether it's dealing with education, just shoot it to the boxes here. You can go to my website, www.gregoryasalters.com. You can follow me on YouTube. You can follow me here on Facebook. The issues that you think that we need to cover, others need to know about, let me know. I'd be glad to do that. With that in mind, I am Dr. Gregory A. Salters. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following. Please share this information. If you know that there's others that can use this information, please share it with them. Get them to like my page. Get them to come on and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And let's begin having conversations to get us from where we are to where we want to be. Because remember, success is options. And I am Dr. Gregory A. Salters, and you have been seasoned for success. Have a good evening.